So depending on your level of fitness, how you structure your programming and how long that you take to recover, because that's going to be really the deciding factor for you. How long it takes you to recover is going to determine how you structure your program. And honestly, one of the things that I absolutely hate right now is a 30-day push-ups challenge, right? That says, okay, you do 100 push-ups a day for 30 days and see what the difference is. Can you build some strength and size with that? I have seen evidence that that is true, that you can absolutely do that. Is it the most efficient way of doing that? Well, one of the things that I actually recently watched, and I don't think that this experiment was done long enough to really get a very, very clear picture. And I don't think that, it was two people that were given two separate programs, which were just, we're going to do the 100 push-up 30-day challenge, right? And one person did their push-ups every single day for a month. The other one did it for every other day for a month. And, personally for me, I would have liked to have seen a minimum of 3 months to a year and see what the difference would be, because I think that that would be a lot more telling. I think that from the science as I know it, we would see that in the person that did it every day, we'd actually probably see a size and strength decrease, not increase, over that period of time, versus compared to the person that did it every single day. The results of the one that I'm referring to were actually pretty, very similar, right? The size difference, in 30 days, you can only put on 1 to 2 pounds of muscle per month period, right? It's going to be 1% of your body weight no matter what. So, we're not going to see a big size difference in a period of a month, which is part of the reason why I didn't necessarily approve of this particular experiment. But, we can start seeing some performance-based changes. And what we did see in that one was that as far as like how many push-ups that each participant could do, they were very comparable. I think the person who took every other day off was actually had a few more reps that he could rep out compared to the person who did it every day. So, but both of them did see that their rep range went up. Now, this could be that both people were, I think they're both actually, moderately average as far as their training levels go. They weren't like super impressive. They didn't train every day. They weren't big gym bros or anything like that. But on the flip side, they weren't completely sedentary either. So, I think that's a decent type of person to look at. I would be interested in seeing, the same experiment done with somebody who's never exercised, two people that have never exercised before, compared to elite athletes as well. And I would imagine that with the elite people, we'd see far fewer changes because there's not going to be a lot of progressive overload that's going on that compared to the people that were untrained. But we also have to keep in mind that proprioception is going to play a big role in that. So if you've ever gone from spending you're doing push-ups on a flat, stable surface, and then you went on to like a BOSU, you'll find that your endurance goes way down. You're not going to be able to do as many reps. You're not going to be able to do as much weight when you're creating an unstable surface. And when you're looking at somebody who's completely untrained, your amount of that your body has to learn how to stabilize, if your body is learning how to stabilize or needs to adapt less in order to stabilize, you're probably going to see a difference in the amount that you change, right? So if somebody is struggling to learn how to control proprioceptively, they're not going to be able to do as many reps as somebody whose proprioception systems actually work faster. And that's proprioception just means body awareness, right? Just knowing where your arms are and how to stabilize in that. So, the point of this is that we want to give our bodies time to rest. We're not actually getting much benefit if we're doing the same exercises every single day. We actually need to change up our program. We actually need to give our bodies time to recover. So different ways that people will actually structure workouts. One is that you will do a 3-way split. 3-way split would mean a push day, pull day, and leg day, and those are going to be all separate. Push days is going to be chest press. It's going to be your pectoral flies if you're going to be doing those. I know that those are controversial. I do mine on dumbbells on the floor so I can't hyperextend and hurt my shoulders, or I'll do it with a cable machine. You have your overhead presses, things like that. You have your usually lat raises and things like that all in the same day. I also do triceps on those days because your triceps are your secondary muscles when you're doing a chest press, overhead press, so on and so forth. A lot of people think, okay, well, biceps are on the front, pecs are on the front, shoulders are basically kind of on the front, so we're going to do bicep curls on the same day. That is a mistake. Don't do that. It's among the most idiotic things. And so then the pull day, that's going to be like your lat pull downs, it's going to be your high rows, it's going to be your external shoulder rotations, it's going to be your bicep curls, low rows, things like that. When do I do core? It's going to be like an every other day sort of deal, or every 3 days. So I might work them in with my chest days. I might work my core in. The way that I oftentimes do is I will do forward oblique movements. So crunches with some type of twist as part of my push days. I might be doing like a reverse plank on a Bosu ball or a Swiss ball or something like that, and I'll usually do like toe or heel taps, right? So I'm facing up, and so I've got that stability element, and I'm going to be working that back chain on my pull days because those are going to be things that are going to be going kind of synergistically together. And then, we have our leg days, which are pretty obvious. Now, I do want to kind of talk a little bit about biomechanics here a little bit when we're trying to structure our workouts, because, again, it's not going to be just, chest press, overhead press, crunches, and, anterior oriented core movements, right? Trunk twists and things like that, which you might do on push days or pull days, actually. But we also want to be thinking about, the other movements that happen in our shoulders. We don't just push here. We don't just go through adduction or adduction here. That's going to be more of a pull day because it's going to be more lat oriented. But there's going to be internal rotation. Generally speaking, we do not need to actually work too much internal rotation, if at all, just because everything that we're doing here on a push day is generally going to be causing internal rotation in the first place, and we tend to be internally rotated focused anyways. This is one of the things that recently came up. People are using these back correctors that like pull you back into this position. It's just like, when you think about backpacks, are doing the same thing, and we're always, when we're holding a heavy backpack, we're always fighting against that, and we're getting into this kyphotic posture, and that's one of the reasons why we often see teenagers like in this posture all the time. And the reason is we're always carrying these heavy backpacks, and we're always fighting against this force that's pulling us into internal rotation. So in our day-to-day lives, if we're sitting at a computer, if we're pushing doors or things like that, we tend to overwork these internal rotators in our shoulder, and it's one of the reasons why shoulder injuries and sorenesses and whatnot are so prevalent. So on our pull days, we really want to make sure that we're not just getting, our classic movements, our last pull downs, our high rows, our low rows, things like that, and bicep curls, but we're also hitting like external rotation movements, face pulls, W flies like on the T-Rex or things like that. I call these good luck kitties because they're like the cat in a Chinese restaurant or whatever that's going like this, right? So I'll hold the dumbbell and get there. I'll do that from different ranges of motion, like I mentioned before. I get down here, so I'm focusing more on the end range of motion, early range of motion. Just depends on what I'm trying to work there. So working on that external rotation is actually going to help keep our shoulders a little bit healthier. Going into leg day, one of the things is that leg days tend to be very, very sagittally focused, and really any workout tends to be single plane focused. So if we think about like a front raise, right? That's going to be going in the sagittal plane. It goes from front to back, right? If I do a lat raise, that's going to be in the frontal plane, so it's going to be going side to side. This is called abduction. And then we have the transverse plane, which is going to be that external rotation, right? So the same thing's going to be very true with our leg days. If we're doing squats, this is all sagittal. If I'm doing a front lunge, this is sagittal. If I'm doing a deadlift, this is sagittal. Single leg deadlift, this is sagittal. It's all this way. And, there is an argument to say, well, in life, we tend to go front to back. We don't tend to, walk down the street going, right? We're not doing a lot of this other planar movement until, we're getting into wrestling, right? and I have to start to circle. I need to be able to shoot in. I need to be able to move. I need to be able to twist. I need to be able to adapt. If I'm playing soccer, I need to move here and I need to be able to change direction on the ground, so there's going to be transverse movement in there. So I need to be able to be working in all these planes. So one of the things I might do, I'll stand next to a platform, externally rotate, and I'll step up and come up to balance, right? And then back down. I might do this with weight. I might, because we walk on stairs when I'm doing stuff. I might start when I have the stability. I'm gonna push off from my bad side, so right, I might incorporate skaters so I can get into that sagittal plane. When I do lunges, like I might do a clock lunge right here, one, right, I'm going counterclockwise here, I'm going all the way through, right, and I'm going through all these different positions, so I'm actually having to work. Sometimes I might say, you know, for this diagonal lunge, I'm gonna point my toes into that diagonal so I get some external rotation, but when I get to the side lunge, I'm going to sit my hip, right? So I'm actually pushing off and I'm pointing my toes and knees straight forward instead of externally rotating at my hip. I'm not saying that, you know, one's better than the other, but I'm saying that I'm incorporating that different rotations of my femur within my hip pocket in order to get those movements to happen and to work in all planes of motion, right? So this is one of the things that when I'm considering how do I do a leg day, okay, I'm going to do something that works, some adductor stability, right? So it may be like Copenhagen planks, it might be putting my foot, keeping my TRX like relatively high, putting my foot in the stirrup and doing leg adductions, right? I might do something that, like doing a drop lunge, and I might put a band on my knee so I have to fight that external rotation, or I might put it on the other side so I have to fight that internal rotation. Oftentimes when I do that, it's because there's a corrective reason why I'm doing that, right? So if somebody's doing a squat or a single leg squat and they're doing a hell of a lot of internal rotation on their knee, well, that means that their external rotators, their glutes predominantly, are probably not strong enough. They're not pulling yourself into the external rotation enough. If I'm seeing high arches and they're really having trouble and they're getting the external rotation on the foot or in the knee, then they probably don't have enough internal rotation stabilization going on. So I need to actually pull in the direction that I don't want it to go into, so they have to fight against that so that they can go into the proper range of motion, or the proper path of motion, right, rather, so that we can correct what is incorrect about that movement, right? So just things for you guys to think about when we're thinking about programming and we're thinking about, you know, I did these all in succession and now my brain is so so when I'm thinking about, like, how do I schedule my week, and how do I schedule my, or plan out my workouts, right? That's what we're getting into in this one, is that I'm thinking about, okay, what are the different pushing motions that my arm can go into, whether it's decline press, incline press, regular chest press, overhead press, things like that. Maybe I'm going to do this, maybe I'm going to do a front raise, maybe I'll do, you know, a lat raise, you know, palms flat, 75-degree angle forward, things like that. You know, whatever, is just like I'm trying to think about all the different ways that my joints move, and I want to hit at least one exercise per each joint motion, right? So oftentimes, like if I'm trying to do some chest development or something like that, I'll do a decline press, an incline press, a Arnold press, and then maybe I will do some tricep push-downs. And that's 4 exercises I can do in a day if I'm doing like a hypertrophy program, I'm having long rest breaks, things like that. So I'm thinking about all those different movements. When it comes to pull movements, I'll probably do something that works this range of motion, right? So this is going to be lat, right? And when you're doing a lat pull down, you're going from here to here, and so the range of motion is kind of not everywhere that your humerus can go into, right? So if I'm doing a low row, right, now you see I'm getting a lot more of that range of motion here, right? So I'm thinking about the angle, okay, the lats have a lot of motion that they can go through. When I'm thinking about like an incline press versus an overhead press, right, you know, I'm inclined here, right? So, you know, the angle that the humerus goes through, right, especially when it's under the most load, is going to be different than say a decline press where my body's angled all the way back and I'm going through kind of this range of motion. You know, what the demand that I'm putting onto this joint is going to be very different in those compared to like an overhead press. So, and the muscles engaged and being used are going to be different in those. So same thing with leg day. Okay, I'm going to work my hamstrings. This is going to be like my deadlifts. I'm going to do single leg deadlifts. Maybe I'm going to do glute bridges. I can do it with my feet up on a box, or I can put my shoulder on a bench and I can do my bridges that way, and I'm going to get a lot of glute there. Maybe I'll put a band around my knee so I get some external rotation or engagement, even if I'm not going through like actual external internal rotation with a band around my knee. I'm still engaging my glutes to fight against that band when I go through that range of motion, and that way actually trying to train my glutes to fire when I'm actually moving in this kind of sagittal plane. And I do want to mention that because I just walked, right? When I'm walking, I don't move entirely sagittally, right? If I did, I would have to keep my hips square, and it'd be something like that, right? Even if I bent my knees, right? That's just, my hips is not what my hips naturally do. What my hips do is I actually will swing my hips, right? This is exaggerated, but you get the point, right? So again, working with movements that actually have transverse movement will actually help prevent injuries. So for leg day, again, we have anything that causes legs to extend, that's going to be quads. Anything that is causing my tail to tuck under or to pull my heel to my butt, that's going to be hamstring, right? Calf raises is going to work your soleus and your gastrocnemius. If I bend my knees and do a calf raise, it's just going to work my soleus. Probably also like peroneus longus and stuff like that. But if I do anterior tibialis curls of one kind or another, and then I can work this anterior tibialis. So, you know, different movements, and I'm just trying to think about my legs in a three-dimensional form. Again, pushing off or anything that's causing that abduction, that is going to work my glutes predominantly. And if I do the opposite, I'm pulling my legs together in some way, right, then I'm going to be working my adductors. And all those things are part of a complex system that make my lower body work properly. So when you're structuring your workouts, think about those different movement patterns that you can create with each one of the joints that you're trying to target, and then work that way, and try not to do too many things that are focusing on the same thing. For example, if I'm doing, you know, dumbbell chest press, followed by barbell chest press, and then I go do fly, it's all working this pectoral muscle, this middle pectoral, almost entirely without any other movement being incorporated. What's happening in the glenohumeral joint is going to be exactly the same from one movement to the next movement, and we're just creating the same stimuli on the same muscle over and over again, which is again why I might incorporate, if I wanted to have more chest engagement or more chest work in the same workout, I will do an incline press with a decline press on the same day, and maybe I won't do middle press at all because it will be activated in both of those movements, right? So just kind of try to think about your workouts in a very three-dimensional way, and try not to overwork like the same muscle all the time. And again, this becomes a little bit tricky when we're talking about our triceps and our biceps, because, you know, there's tricep here. If I'm doing incline press, decline press in the same workout, triceps on both of those, and then I'm doing an overhead press in there, there's triceps in there. So oftentimes if I'm doing so much chest work that requires the triceps to work as well, maybe I'm going to incorporate a lat raise instead of the overhead press, right? Maybe I'm going to do front raises, maybe I'm going to do something like that so that I can give my triceps a little bit of a break. And maybe I don't do the isolated movement for the triceps at all because it's been involved in so many of the other exercises. And again, the more advanced you get, the more your body's going to be tolerant to overloading, right? And having too much of everything in, or too much stimuli on a single muscle throughout the entire workout. So I hope this is helpful for you guys. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to send me an email or anything like that. I do ask that you try to keep it like productive rather than friendly chit chat. There's a lot of you guys out there, a lot of people for me to respond to when you do reach out. So you know, I'm happy to help you out in any way, shape, or form that I can. Oftentimes when people ask me questions, they make them into these videos so everybody can get the benefit of the answer. So thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you on the flip side. Let me know what I should do in my next video, and I'll see you around.